What's up, fellow Tubians? How goes it? So, we are well within the first quarter of 2022, and while Intel's 12th generation processors are technically out, there's only a handful of laptops that are being sold at your local retailer, which is why I thought now's the perfect time to say, hey, let's look at some of the best Intel 11th generation processors, which are very much still out for sale. And I thought I'd kind of do the mid range productivity market because that's the one we most prominently review on this channel and give you kind of a reviewer's pick of some of the best laptops for varying reasons. Now, keep in mind there's no AMD or M series processors on here, and that's not because I'm an Intel fanboy. It's simply because I want to keep things as consistent as possible. There will be a AMD comparison in a separate video coming soon. So as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button, sub to my channel. Thanks for watching. Keep in mind the laptops are in no particular order and they're not objectively the best laptops in the market, just some good ones we reviewed on this channel. Let's get started. First on the list, we have Lenovo's IdeaPad 3. This is probably the most business-minded laptop on this list here, and for good reason. The build quality is very simple yet subtle, but also has elements of a premium finish, like you have a metallic top finish or a metallic inner chassis. You have one of the best keyboards in the industry. Honestly, the IdeaPad 3's keyboard rivals the like of Apple's Magic Keyboard or Microsoft's Surface keyboard. It's a great typing experience. Past that, you have a decent variety of I/O ports, a little bit of everything, and a full-size SD card reader, which is often not found on many 15-inch laptops. Now, it's also worth noting in the performance department, while this isn't the most well-optimized laptop out there, it makes good use of Intel's 11th Gen i5 processor and the 8GB of RAM you get at its base configuration level. This is enough to do most productivity tasks easily. You can do 1080p video editing without breaking a sweat and even play games like GTA 5 for example at a healthy 30 plus frames per second on relatively high settings. Now with that said, this laptop can heat up a little bit, so it does have the occasional thermal throttling, but perhaps its biggest setback is the fact that you only have a 51% sRGB rating on the display you get with this machine and a mere 300 nits peak brightness, so creative users may want to steer clear. But for anyone who wants general productivity with a little bit of casual gaming even, this is a great laptop and it's available in a wide set of regions. Next up, we have the MSI Modern 15. Now, this laptop is kind of the jack of all trades. It doesn't particularly excel anywhere, but it's not particularly bad anywhere either. So it has average build quality with a few premium elements here and there that's very sturdy generally speaking. You have a mediocre trackpad that does feel cheap and flimsy, but to offset that, you also have a great keyboard that provides an ample amount of key travel and a good typing experience. And yes, of course, it's fully backlit. The I/O port diversity is a little bit lacking. You don't have any sort of SD card reader unfortunately, but the rest of the ports are enough to provide a flexible experience. You'll also appreciate the fact that you have decent battery life at about 8 hours on a single charge. Performance wise, this laptop can get hot if you push it to its absolute limit, hitting surface temperatures over 45 degrees Celsius, but that's a rare case. Generally speaking, under more realistic loads, you'll usually stay around the 39 degrees Celsius mark, which means thermal throttling is rather limited in a good way and you can do casual gaming and even video productivity based activities. Now, the display on here is very much mediocre unfortunately with a mere 56% sRGB rating and a lackluster 270 nits peak brightness level. This seems to be consistent no matter which configuration you get. So now you're probably asking me, okay Shapar, then why would you even put this laptop on this list? Well, simply because this laptop has some very practical configurations. It comes in i5 and i7 builds with 8GB and 16GB builds, and believe it or not, it's sold in most regions of the world, which makes this again a very practical laptop because it just has a lot of robust builds and configurations going that's often not found in a lot of mid-range laptops. Next on our list, we have the Dell Inspiron 5510, which is part of the 5000 series of laptop. Now, this is a great machine for good reason. So you have a fantastic build quality overall. It's sturdy, slightly heavy at 3.6 pounds, but to be fair, you do have a metallic top finish, as well as a metallic inner chassis, a very large amount of palm rest space, and look at the size of that trackpad. It's absolutely enormous, and it's also pretty high in terms of quality with a nice tactile feel. The keyboard also lives up to the same amount amount of reputation here. So you have a nice tactile finish in terms of key press, and of course a ample amount of key travel. And yes, you do get a full-size 10 keypad, of course. IO port diversity is decent. While not industry leading, it does have enough ports to make it a very flexible experience. But past that, the biggest highlight here is the display. With a 100% sRGB rating, this is definitely one of the better displays. Unfortunately, there is the occasional PWM flickering, particularly once you go below the 50% brightness threshold. Now, it's also worth noting in the performance department, the 5510 is one of the better laptops here. It rarely gets excessively hot. At its absolute peak load, we found in our test, you'll rarely go above 41 degrees Celsius surface temperature, and in fact, for the most part, you stay well below it, meaning there's very little thermal throttling, which allows for games like GTA 5 to consistently run above 30 frames per second at even high settings. And also, you can do up to 4K video editing on here, which in itself is a pretty impressive feat. The Inspiron 5510 also comes in a number of configurations that can be directly customized on Dell's website, so you can choose the processor, the RAM, and in some regions the 100% sRGB display is optional, but it's a cheap configurable option, so it's all nice to have that over there. The biggest setback with this machine is its lackluster battery life. It's about 7 hours on average use, which is less than any other laptop on this list. If you are someone who needs all-day battery life, that's the one thing I cannot guarantee with this laptop, unfortunately. Next on this list is the Acer Aspire 5, but not for reasons you may necessarily think so. So let's start off with the good. You have a great modern looking build quality. The Aspire 5 has improved a lot over the years. It's sturdy, but it also feels premium compared to previous generations. You have a metallic top finish, a metallic inner chassis as well. Additionally, you have a nice trackpad and a decent keyboard that provide for a pleasurable typing experience. IO port diversity is decent as well. You get a nice mix of various ports that make this a very versatile device. But another great thing about this machine is by far its 9.5 hours of single charge battery life using an average use case, which is definitely above average compared to a lot of other laptops on this list at least. Now, the things that do hold this machine back first and foremost include its lackluster display with a mere 51% sRGB rating. I would not recommend this for any sort of color accurate activity like video editing or photo editing, for example. Additionally, this laptop has a serious thermal management issue. Despite having Intel's 11th gen hardware, it hardly makes good use of it because it spends far too much time being hot. So it can go all the way up to 47 degrees surface temperature under its absolute peak load. That is an insanely hot amount. Now, granted, under more sustained loads, you'll stay around the 41 to 43 degrees Celsius mark, but again, that's just too hot, and as a result of this, you frequently get frame drops when you're doing activities like even 1080p video editing or playing games like GTA 5 or Fortnite, where the frame rate struggles to stay high enough simply because this laptop generates far too much heat. Now you're asking, Shapar, why on earth are you recommending this laptop? What's wrong with you? Hold on. One thing Acer Aspire 5 does right is that it's very accessible. This is one of the few laptops on this list that you can pretty much buy anywhere in the world in the configuration that I mentioned with the i5 and 8GB of RAM, and it's actually frequently always going on sale. I've checked various Amazon sites. This laptop is always going on sale. Acer has made a modern day laptop very accessible across the globe. It's not one of those machines where you get different specifications in part of the world. It's a consistent experience. And that in itself definitely speaks volumes to me. This company might have a lot of flaws with this model, but still, this is a good laptop that's available for most people across the globe. And for that, I want to put it on this list. Well guys, that's pretty much it for this list. I kept it very short on purpose because there's no point of giving you too many options. This is kind of the laptops I felt provided the most value in their respective areas of specialty. Now keep in mind, these aren't objectively the best laptops in the market. There are great laptops, some of you may even disagree. I'd love to hear your opinions on what you think is the best mid-range 14 or 15-inch laptop in the market. With that said, of course, keep in mind again, this was Intel only simply because I wanted to keep the experience consistent and also keep the fact that this is not a full review. I've done a dedicated full review for each of these laptops in a separate video. I'll leave a link for each one in the description below. If you want to check out all the nitty-gritty details, I highly encourage you to check those videos out. You'll find them super helpful. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, sub to my channel. It genuinely helps me grow. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.